Hey, Brats, before we get started, I just have a few things to say. I'm really proud of this episode. I personally think it's one of the best ones that we've recorded so far. With that said, it comes with a few warnings. First of all, we're going to be talking a lot about Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is a movie that was made 49 years ago. And as such, it has a lot of outdated language that does not hold up very well. So we will address some of it, but that's something to possibly look out for. In addition to that, Ben is going to be talking a lot about his time doing Rocky Horror back in the day. And that comes with a lot of sensitive topics. He does get pretty vulnerable, and I am really proud of him for that. I think there's a lot of important things that he had to say. But just a word of warning, we will be talking a lot about body image issues and eating disorders. And one last thing is we actually lost the video signal for the first half of this episode. It does come in halfway through, but in its place, we will be showing a bunch of pictures of Ben dressed as some of the characters from Rocky Horror. So I hope you all enjoyed and get as much from it as I did watching it back myself. Now let's get started on our journey into the spooky world of Denton, Ohio. Hey, Brats.
Hey, Brats.
My name is Robin and I'm trans.
My name is Ben and I am trans.
Welcome to a very spooky October 8th.
Something like that.
Yeah, October 8th episode. If you didn't catch this in the last episode, we're doing a special series of Halloween themed episodes, which we're psyched about. Happy October 8th. We're saying this and then I'm going to ADHD and release this 2 days later or something, but we'll see.
Yeah. Happy October 8th-ish.
Yeah. So for our second episode in our spooky series, I want to talk to Ben about Rocky Horror because for some reason we never brought this up on the show before, but you did Rocky Horror for a long time, right?
Yeah, a couple of years. Though I feel like I should pull up a moment of trans joy first, right?
Oh my God, you're right.
So let me go to the Discord.
Yay.
Get in the Discord. Now I need to find one that I know for sure we have approval on, which means I'm looking for Muscle Mommy.
Muscle Mommy.
Because she was like, anything I ever say is allowed. I just saw, she said boof it. And I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah. Progesterone.
Yeah. I'm gonna find one. Good thing we can edit, right? Or we, the royal we.
Yes. I edit. I am very perfectionistic, or I don't know. I'm neurodivergent.
Very good. Being neurodivergent is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't know. It's kind of like a trans moment of joy for me, but what Florence said about listening to our bathroom episode.
Yeah.
So someone in our Discord named Florence said, I listened to y'all's bathroom episode as we were traveling across states like Kentucky, Iowa, and Missouri. It was a comfort to hear y'all talk on it as I was experiencing it, and being able to go in I'm not alone went a long way. And also she said that the new place she's living has been incredible so far. She's seen so many queer folks just out as loudly and authentically as possible, and that it's way better than living in the South.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
We're so happy for you.
Yeah. But it's very meaningful to hear that the whole reason why we're doing this is having this, it's doing the job that we wanted it to do.
Yeah. We've gotten the sweetest feedback. It's been really nice to hear. It's really cut me to the core. Exactly the feedback, compliments that I want to hear, which is just thank you for doing what you're doing. I feel less alone. Like Florence said, I was listening to this thing. And also, another one of our friends just said this the other day. I was going about my day by myself, but I was listening to you guys, and it was like I was with my trans family. Yeah.
Also, our friend Briar, who I'm sure y'all have met by now, was talking about how just listening has helped them kind of understand themselves a little bit more, and it's just taught them a lot more about the broader trans community because they're fairly recent to coming out.
Yeah.
And then also shout out to Ashley, who was talking about feeling a lot less alone.
Yeah.
It just makes me so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And
That's what we want.
I hope it makes them happy too.
Yeah.
I hope it makes all of them as happy as it makes us.
Mhm.
But it's so good for my mental health and probably yours, to hear something that we're nurturing and like putting a lot of care into, whether it seems like it or not sometimes.
Yeah, I was talking to my therapist about it the other day because we were doing one of those things where it's like you talk about a fear and work through the different parts and like what's the evidence that it's not a valid fear or whatever. And my answer for one of those was that we've had so many people say that us being out in ourselves and providing this platform and everything has been really good for them. And so I was like, oh, it is good for me to be out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your moment of joy from last week, where just by having your pin on, like you helped someone
Mhm.
who is very, very new into their journey. And I think that's amazing. And like, it is hard. And there's people who post mean things on our stuff. But it doesn't matter, because if they don't like it, it's not for them.
Mhm. Yeah. It's just part of my regular routine when I go to post new content is post the thing, check the nice comments, block a bunch of people,
Yeah, I
block
wonder
and
how
report
many
some
I haven't
people.
even seen. Probably a lot.
There's a lot.
Well,
We were
damn.
our friend Holly and I were at work yesterday and we were just like chatting with a coworker about something. I don't even remember where this came up or whatever, but like Holly mentioned something about like death threats and our coworker was like, "What? Like what?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I get them all the time." I was like, "Oh yeah, me too, but mostly just in public comment sections on things that I post."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's fine. They're on the internet.
Yeah, and internet people aren't real
They're not real.
until they come to your house, but they better not.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, I will not be happy. And there might
Be
be
very cross.
repercussions. Yeah, there might be repercussions. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely.
I do have ADT home security, so
Mhm.
try it.
Yeah. Once you get those BVT muscles too, just like come
Yeah.
protect me. You can be my bodyguard.
Yes. Your very small bodyguard. I will be as wide as I am tall, but only in the shoulders, because I'll be
Yeah.
shaped like a triangle, but the opposite shape of triangle that I have been. I've usually been a pear.
An affirming triangle.
Yeah.
An upside down pear
I'm
or
excited.
something.
We'll see. That's if I actually put in the work. I need muscle
Mhm.
mommy to get
Put
me
in the
together.
work.
Brooke, please help.
You gotta work, bro.
Yeah. Anyway, it's nice to put so much work into something. Granted, you're putting way more work in because you're doing the editing, but to
Mm.
like have it do the things you wanted it to do. And our community is still so small, and like it has so much more potential. But like the fact that it's already doing what it is means the world to me. And
Mhm.
I would be happy if it was just this forever.
Yeah. And we have such a tight group
Hmm.
online already too. Like we don't have a lot of people in the Discord, but I feel like we're all like family already.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah. The people in our Discord right now are for sure family.
Mhm.
We'll see once it gets really big. I might have my limits on like how many Christmas cards I can send out, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, it's really nice. It's wholesome. Yeah. It's still small enough that I don't need to moderate it.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Rocky Horror, Ben.
Okay.
So first of all, I'm sure most people listening are familiar with Rocky Horror, but why don't you just like give like a really short rundown of what Rocky Horror Picture Show is?
So it is a movie from the 70s that calls itself a science fiction movie, but it's really just kind of gay chaos. Where
Chaos.
there are aliens in a castle in Ohio is what is most commonly accepted. It was never explicitly stated, but it's in Denton, and there's like a Denton, Ohio, and a Denton, Texas, and Ohio
Mhm.
makes more sense. But anyway,
Yeah.
aliens in a castle. The main alien is played by Tim Curry, Dr. Frankenfurter. He is self-proclaimed transsexual from the planet of Transylvania. Like the type of alien is transsexual. And he's building himself the perfect man. Then innocent, newly engaged humans, Brad and Janet, get a flat tire, go to the castle. They do the time warp. They meet his perfect man, Rocky, also known as Rocky Horror.
Mhm.
And then a whole bunch of weird sexual musical chairs happens, and then the Dr. Frankenfurter's sidekicks decide they don't like him anymore, and they kill him and then beam the planet back to Transylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally perfectly logical movie.
That's a completely normal thing, yeah.
Mhm.
It's totally fine, yeah.
But then, like, for what I was doing for Rocky Horror is a shadowcast, and so that's where you're playing the movie on the movie screen in a movie theater, and then people dress up like the characters and act out the movie as precisely as possible in front of the movie with props. And I've played most of the I've played all the characters except for the Transylvanians, every single one. Other than there's this thing called Hat Night where if you didn't have enough cast members due to like illness or just like vacations or whatever, you would just put all the characters' names in a hat and you pull it out. And whether you knew it or not, you had to play the character for that scene. And then at every new scene, you pulled a new character. So I did play the other ones for Hat Night, but very badly. But I got to do Frankenfurter for the song Sweet Transvestite,
Nice.
which was iconic and horrible. Not horrible for me, but horrible as far as screen accuracy, which is always the goal.
So you actually did like the annual transition kind of thing. Like you actually did like pulling genders out of a hat.
Yep, I did.
That must have been a really interesting experience.
It was always fun and so chaotic. And like, it was every Saturday night. Now that the theater that I used to do it at, which I don't live anywhere near as close to it anymore. But now that I think they only do it every other weekend or maybe once a month. And instead of at midnight, it's at 10 p.m. And it's a whole new group of people. But it was a fun time.
I'm sad that I missed it when you were doing it anyway. Like I've seen it, but...
Yeah, but you missed it when I just recently went back for an alumni-only night. And luckily, one of my dear friends was doing the casting and gave me first dibs for gender-affirming reasons. And I picked Brad. Brad was always my favorite to play. And your wife was there.
Yeah.
But you had to work.
I know, I had to work. It was a bummer. I was really sad that I missed it, but...
You missed me falling during the floor show because I can't walk in heels. And I was trying to get across the front of the screen and I just ate shit. Immediately jumped right back up, though.
Yeah.
The show must go on.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah, I know. Aaron had a lot of fun. So did our friends. One of our friends was like... really threw his boyfriend under the bus because he didn't know anything about Rocky Horror. And so like
I was backstage for this.
And so like people will ask you when you go, like, is this your first time? And if you don't want to be horribly embarrassed, you just say like, not my first time, I've done this before.
Yeah, they ask if you're a virgin.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if you are femme presenting, they'll have you fake an orgasm. If you are mask presenting, they will have you get on all fours while they pretend to make you squeal like a pig. If you're a minor, it's like a lot more silly, goofy. Like sometimes it'll be like tell your worst joke. It's definitely not for the faint of heart, and a big part of it is interacting with the movie. So like they'll say a line and then you'll say something in response that makes it even worse, and a lot of those do not age well and like have remained unchanged since the 70s.
Yeah.
So like if you've never been to a Rocky Horror shadowcast, gird your loins. Luckily, when I was acting, that was none of my thing. I was 100% focused on the movie and screen accuracy.
Yeah, of course you were.
So I didn't have to think about that. But like there's this one line where the audience goes, "Hey, Janet, did you bring your waterproof vibrator?" And then she goes, "Yes." And then you go, "Why?" And then she goes, "It's raining." You know, so like you set things up to make it into jokes. That's one of the more mild ones. And I think I got it a little wrong because I'm not immersed in it right now. But yeah, I'd spent a couple years of my life. I did the 35th anniversary Rocky Horror Convention emceed by Barry Bostwick, who played Brad. I got to play Columbia on stage in downtown LA for the dinner scene where she confronts Frankenfurter and goes, "You just take, and drain others of their love and emotion." Columbia was my second favorite to play, which in hindsight, I just realized this like yesterday because we were talking about recording a Rocky Horror episode. She's the closest to like a full-on drag queen because I had to cover my brows and put on a full face of makeup. Yeah, wear a wig. I had a lot of fun playing her. And people liked me the best as Columbia, but I always liked playing Brad. And no one could ever guess why.
That's so weird.
Yeah. I got to play Eddie once. Eddie's played by Meatloaf, and he's a bad boy on a motorcycle. We did a gender swap night. And so I was a tiny, tiny Eddie with like a 6'4" Columbia. That was a blast.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you started doing Rocky Horror before you came out, I'm assuming?
I did Rocky Horror before I graduated high school.
Oh,
I was 18.
wow.
You had to be 18.
Okay, wow.
But like
I didn't know that.
I turned 18 at the beginning of the school year, and then I started doing Rocky Horror like less than 2 months after I turned 18, so by January, and then I did it until I finished community college.
How did you start doing it?
I went as an audience member. One of my sisters, like I have 2 older sisters, the one closest to me in age would go, and I would go with her, and then I shout out to a different Chris. I'm not going to use the name he goes by right now to protect his anonymity because he uses one of his middle names. But he is 6'8", and 18-year-old me was just like, tall man.
Yeah.
And so then I told him I was in his fan club, and then kind of became friends with the cast that way. And he was always a good sport. He's always been a good friend. I love him very much. He's a delight. He actually, when I had to grab all the rest of my stuff from my parents' house when we were done talking to each other, he came and helped. So I haven't seen him since then, but he's great. Anyway, it was because I said I was his biggest fan, started talking with them, then they let me join the cast. And then I needed a job, so one of the people on cast was a manager at a cafe and got me in as a barista. And then I joined the cast and did it for 2 years. And I was always hanging out. There's leadership. They're the people who manage the props and run the scheduling and stuff. And I was really tight with the leadership. I probably could have become leadership if it weren't for the drama that made me quit.
Oh.
There's always drama in any sort of theater group.
Yeah, of course.
But
did you do theater in high school?
No, I wasn't allowed.
Okay. Sure.
So I got my payback by joining Rocky Horror.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I wasn't allowed to do theater because they took it too seriously, and it wasn't. The same sister that took me to Rocky tried theater for one play, and she was had one line, a very small part, and they treated it like it was a job. And my parents wanted our extracurriculars to be extracurriculars, not a job. If it's not fun, then what's the point? But I wanted to do it anyway, but I wasn't allowed.
It would have been fun.
Yeah. But I loved it. I don't know. It's a lot of gender exploration. A lot of the people are queer. If they're not queer, they're used to queer people. They're pretty cool with it. I'm actually seeing one of the friend that did the casting for the alumni show this weekend because he's having a little birthday get-together with his son. They're doing a father-son birthday. It's going to be fun to see some of my old Rocky friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people I met there, I'm friends with still. And it's been, probably 15 years. I feel old. But yeah, it's very gay. Should we get into the transsexual talk?
Okay.
Because one of the biggest songs is called Sweet Transvestite. And the lyrics are, I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. And so that brings up just interesting discourse around modern takes on transvestite and transsexual.
Yeah.
So
let's get into it, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't cancel us, other trans people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know where I stand on it. It's certainly a product of its time, and some people use the word now and some people don't.
Yeah. My doctor uses the word transsexual, the medical establishment in general, because it's marked down as my diagnosis to get my hormones. So it's still the primary medical term used. I know some trans people think of it as a slur, kind of.
Yeah, which I totally understand.
Yeah. And some people don't see it like that, but just don't like to use it. I know some other people who, one of my favorite trans podcasts is Gender Reveal, and the host, Tuck Woodstock, really likes to use transsexual as a reclaiming thing. So people have a lot of different opinions. Oh, and I was saying before, the author/trans icon Julia Serrano, who wrote Whipping Girl. I don't know if she still feels this way, but when she wrote the book, there's pretty extensive section towards the beginning of the book where she talks about how she prefers to go by transsexual as opposed to transgender because I don't want to without it in front of me, I don't want to fully describe her position or whatever, but I think she was kind of saying that the word transgender is kind of like a blanket term that covers a lot of people overall. And she kind of felt like her identity was being minimized or excluded by that being a thing. And so people have different opinions.
I mean, I could see there being the argument of gender is completely different from biological sex. So who's to say that your gender has transitioned at all if your gender is inherently part of who you are? And then if you're getting a medical transition, that is definitely more by the literal medical definitions of gender versus sex. Transsexual is probably more accurate for some people if it's a label that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, right. And we're both on HRT, so I guess we both transed our gender first, and then we're in an in-between state, kind of, where part of our body is the physical aspect, your physical sex versus your gender.
Yeah.
So the hormonal part of us, is physically the sex of male or female, but our bodies aren't fully,
Especially not mine, because no changes noticed yet, which is totally fine. It takes time.
Yeah.
You've obviously had some changes.
A little bit, yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
With your luscious lips.
But yeah, it's complicated.
It is complicated. And I think no matter where a person lands on it, it's totally fine as long as you're not forcing other people to use it to describe themselves.
Yeah.
But it's certainly something to be aware of if you've never seen Rocky Horror. If those are hard no's for you and just seeing those terms used excessively like we are right now is upsetting, then I would not recommend seeing that.
Yeah, exactly. Not a fan of transvestite, though.
No, and I feel like that term is more about what we would think of as... I haven't looked this up recently. This is just based on the cobwebby memories of my brain. But I feel like the term transvestite is more for what we would think of as cross-dressing, and it's not actually a gender journey. It's more of just an expression, play thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I can remember. It's been a while since I've delved deep into all the vocab.
Yeah. Sometimes cis people mix them up and it can get icky. You know?
I certainly don't want that term used for me.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone should ever use that term directed at people unless that person has used it for themselves first. Certainly Dr. Frankenfurter feels that way.
Yeah, exactly. Because it has fetishy vibes.
And Dr. Frankenfurter is a very fetishy character.
Yeah. Which is fine for Dr. Frankenfurter.
Great for him. Also Tim Curry in
Tim Curry is amazing.
Drag, so gorgeous. The glittery lip.
Yes.
So good.
Tim Curry's amazing. Yeah,
and I hope he's doing well. I'm dreading the day that he's gone. Same with Mel Brooks. I'm dreading the day Mel Brooks is gone.
Yeah.
Those both are going to be devastating. Not that Mel Brooks is related to Rocky Horror. Just thinking about...
Just in general.
Just thinking about old musical people.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rocky Horror is very gay. Very, very gay. There's a lot of just pansexualness about the movie. Just an inherent pansexual vibe. And the whole process for Brad and Janet are straight people, in the script writing sense. Kind of like how if you're in a comedy, there's usually the straight man and it doesn't matter gender. But in the movie, Brad and Janet are the straight people in that sense. And they're
the normies who wandered into the situation.
Yeah. And they're going on this journey to realize that labels aren't that important is kind of how I view the film. Yeah. I'm sure other people have different interpretations, but they start out cishet monogamous and end up making out with everyone in a swimming pool. So, gosh, I was obsessed with Rocky Horror since before I was even allowed to watch it. There used to be this video rental place back when we only had VHSs called Potomac Video. And I'd go to the horror section because I was into scary movies a lot more when I was younger. And I would see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I'd be like, Mom, I want to rent that one. And she'd be like, no, you can't watch that one. That one's not acceptable for you. You're not old enough. And so by the time I finally got to go see it, I had been building it up in my head for so long. And it makes me wonder if my mom had let me watch it when I was younger, if I ever would have actually gone into performing,
Yeah.
Because it became on a pedestal.
Yeah, because it was the thing you weren't allowed to do.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
fun.
I remember when I was a kid, I was a huge Simpsons fan, and there was a random bit on an episode where Rocky Horror was playing, and the police chief was like, "Ooh, finally an excuse to wear makeup." And I was like, "What is this Rocky Horror I hear so much about?"
Yeah. Well, my whole, like, since late elementary school, maybe middle school, they had at that theater, which was within a few miles of my parents' house, and we would go in that shopping center all the time. They always had, like, Rocky Horror Saturday midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I knew it was a thing. I knew it was, like, a phenomenon because there was no other movie that was always up on the thingy, the listing.
If it's the same one, I assume it is. It's like permanently been up the Rocky Horror Summit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But now it's Sat 10.
Saturn.
Yeah.
Saturn.
Yep. And it's right across the street from the college I went to. And I kind of miss living closer because now that it's at 10 p.m., I'd probably go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm friends with some of the current cast on Facebook, but I haven't really hung out with them. And a lot of them are gender nonconforming.
Yeah.
And like the cast is more queer than it's ever been. And I would love to support that. And they do it for free. They pay for their own costumes. They make their own props. They have to carry them in every time. And like I was sewing my own costumes or like spending hundreds of dollars to have things custom made. Also, I could be silly with a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
And I took it so seriously.
You were kind of doing drag without calling it that, right?
I was very much doing drag and I loved it. We're going to have to like insert, I have a whole bunch of pictures of me in
Oh, yes.
a bunch of the different outfits, which
Yeah.
I don't mind. The Rocky one is me in a gold metallic bikini, but like it's drag. It's fine.
Mhm. Yeah.
My body hasn't looked like that in years. I was running 5K a day back then.
Yeah.
So I would not look like that in a bikini now. So it's not even like looking at myself.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. Like I said in a past episode, we were talking about pictures of our past selves. And I was like, the pictures I've seen of Ben from back in the day, like when I see the pictures, that's not Ben to me. It doesn't connect at all. So I get like third person dysphoria, I guess. I'm like, who is that?
It's
That's
so
not you.
weird. I pulled up a picture of me when I was 19 because I was talking with Brooke in the server about makeup. And then I was like, hey, Chris, want to see something scary? And I showed him the picture. And he was like, how old were you?
Yeah.
And he only knew it was me because apparently he'd seen the picture before. Because sometimes I'm just like, you want to see something weird? I'm like, it's just a picture of me. And he's just like, I think he feels the same way. It doesn't really register to him as me. Like he only knows it's me if he already knows it's me.
I'm not at a point where I like seeing old pictures of myself. Well, not that you like seeing old pictures, but I'm not at a point where I'm super comfortable with them. I'm just like, oh, gross.
Sometimes I'll see pictures of me when I was younger, and it makes me sad, but not necessarily because of the gender thing, but because like the person I was back then was a lot more functional.
Yeah.
And I miss being functional. And like I used to do some of the coolest shit. And now I play Stardew for 12 hours a day or crochet for 12 hours a day. And I like it, but like I was way cooler when I was hanging out with cheetahs every Monday. That was awesome.
Yeah, you're pretty cool now.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I was never functional, so that's not something.
I was pretending to be functional, and I tried so hard for so long that like I disabled myself by never knowing my limits, and I just kept pushing and pushing to try to meet these expectations, and it eventually got to the point where I could not even meet my own. And I'm trying to I think tea is going to help a lot with that. As I start seeing changes, it's going to make me more like I can do things, but I do miss the person who could start Rocky Horror at midnight, go to IHOP at 3 a.m., go home at 5 a.m., wake up at 9, go do a closing shift at a cafe, open the next morning, and then do 16 credit hours at school, and also have another side job, and sew, and do painting, and like I could do so much, but like
I mean, you were young too.
I was also borrowing energy from my current self.
Yeah.
Like I used up 2 decades worth of energy in like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't even on any drugs other than thyroid meds.
Yeah.
But like, gosh, imagine what I could have accomplished if I was on ADHD meds.
That's terrifying.
Right?
Could be a god.
Though I think a lot of it was just like if I slow down and stop, I'm not going to be able to start again. So I just got to keep going. Is part of it.
Distraction too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can't feel dysphoria if you're busy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When I was talking to my therapist last, so she had just asked a general, like, how are you feeling or whatever. It's like, well, I feel both happy and depressed at the same time. Is that a thing? She's like, well, what do you mean by depressed? And I was just like, I have a lot of the outward signs. Like, I'm not executively functioning. I have no drive to get stuff done, and so on and so on. But like, I still feel happy inside. And she's like, well, just because you have those outward signs doesn't mean you're depressed. That can be a lot of different things. And she's like, is it possible that you're like in a good place and doing stuff that you love, but you're just like burnt out? It's like, yeah, because I feel like I'm in a good place emotionally, but I've been doing a lot of stuff like putting myself out in the open like this. Like, this is an insane thing that we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
For people, especially for me who was in the closet for like decades. When I stop and think about that, I was like, who are you?
This is a very vulnerable thing
It's
that
a
we're
very
doing.
vulnerable. Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to my other doctor just yesterday, and she was asking about how the podcast is going and everything. And I was telling her about all the nice feedback that we've been getting. And she was like, that's really good because I know you're talking about a lot of trauma and everything. And I was concerned that it might be overwhelming and re traumatizing for you. It's like, it's not though, because I've been putting myself out in the open and exposing my inner truth and my stories and everything. And I've been getting such good feedback from people, and people have felt less alone through that. And so it's actually been really healing.
I think also people worry a lot about saying things out loud, re-traumatizing you. But when you have PTSD, it's already going on in your head all the time.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a difference to just say it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Like, doing it on a podcast is not more re-traumatizing to me than just living my life.
Yeah, exactly. You're bringing it back to like the foreground of your thoughts, but we're doing this in like a safe context though. It's not like somebody out in public just telling a random joke about something that was a traumatic thing for you
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, just like throwing something out dismissively. This is a different vibe. We're like
Yeah.
doing this with friends.
When we trust each other, we take it pretty seriously. Not that
Mhm.
we don't ever have fun, but like we treat each other's stories with respect.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's very helpful.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's not many people that I could do this with. So,
It's an honor.
yeah.
I'm really glad that we're doing this.
Hmm. It's been really
I
nice.
hope our listeners are glad.
Yeah. But even if nobody ever listened to it, and we know people have been,
Mhm.
but even if it were just us speaking into microphones that were turned off,
Yeah.
it'd still be worth it because it's been really nice. It's been really affirming.
It's been very trans.
It's
Very
been very
brat.
trans. Yeah.
I love being brat.
Hmm.
Are there any other Rocky Horror things we need to talk about?
Mm,
Oh, we're gonna have to talk about eating disorders, huh?
yay.
Well, the gender of it all.
Is this just going to be like a full on beginning to end trigger warning one?
Yeah. So now that we've had a quick rehydration bathroom break, we're gonna get into the gender.
The gender of it all.
The gender of it all.
We should do a podcast where we just talk about gender issues.
Oh man, that would be weird.
Like trans stuff.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
So when I was doing Rocky Horror, I didn't know I was trans yet. So I was like in this really weird phase of my life where I was like, I don't feel right in my body, but maybe if I looked really good, I would feel better in my body. So like around this time, I was getting into anorexia and then exercise bulimia. So I was like a size 0, which on my frame, even though I'm very short, like I got big hips. On my frame, a size 0 is not healthy. And I was like dressing hyper femme in my everyday life and wearing makeup. Granted, I never ever figured out a full face of makeup besides playing Columbia. But I was doing like eyeliner and like cool eyeshadow that I exclusively learned from drag queen tutorials. Because that's how all the
That's how you
gals
learn.
that's how all the gals learn makeup is from drag queens. But it was interesting.
I don't mean to interrupt,
Yeah.
but were you like dressing hyperfemme and doing the makeup and everything, was there like an aspect of it that you liked, or was it just for the sake of like literally masking?
It felt like doing drag.
Yes.
It literally felt like doing drag.
I've said that about myself so many times about having to like wear a suit and tie and stuff like that. It's like, this is the only time in my life where I feel like I'm doing drag, is when I have to like put on the man costume.
I think that's a lot of why I was drawn to like drag queen tutorials, is because even though I didn't know at the time I was doing drag, but it was really just like, if I don't like my body, maybe if I had the perfect body, I would like my body. Which, of course, after I came out as trans, my mom was like, but you used to wear dresses and do makeup. And it's like, that's a thing that not all trans people do, but some trans people will go into an overcompensation phase where they're trying to fit into the box to it, the perfect, like, meet all the check boxes, and maybe you'll finally feel okay.
I've been through phases. I even tried to be outdoorsy once.
Insane.
Yeah.
I like being outdoorsy, but I like being sedentary outdoorsy. Like, I want to be in a hammock next to a tent, next to a campfire. I don't want to be on a hike.
Yeah, glamping, not camping.
Exactly. But yeah, during that phase of my life, it was hard. I was also getting into really unhealthy relationships that had really bad like power dynamics, where I was not in a good side of the power dynamic. But it was like, maybe if I feel small, I'll feel feminine enough. Instead, I just got into a cycle of abuse that was really bad, which was really hard to get out of. But like, playing in these characters was just such an interesting experience. And it's really hard to describe, but like, I got to play like the man-made dream boy. I got to play the tap dancing singing lady. I got to play the motorcycle guy. I got to play the old guy in a wheelchair in a suit. I got to play the old guy who's narrating. Like, I got to play so many characters, and I was always the most drawn to Brad, who's the most normal guy.
Basic man, yeah.
And then Columbia, who is the most draggy drag queen. And it was really affirming. And I got a lot of attention from my Columbia. I think a lot of that, it was that I could sew and I made my own costume and it looked pretty good and screen accurate. And so I got like a lot of accolades for that, which is like, I didn't even apply to be in that 35th anniversary show, but the guy who was doing the casting for it came to visit and saw me as Columbia and just threw my name in. And I actually almost got him in trouble, because when the casting came out, I posted on Facebook, like, I'm Columbia in the anniversary show. I didn't even apply. And they were like, take that down, take that down, take that down. So many people would kill for that. And you didn't even apply. You got to take that down. And I would love to play Columbia again, but not until I've had some more time on testosterone. I wanted to feel more like drag, like man dressed as woman, and less like bio queen. Because right now I present still very feminine. Like, I've been on T 6 days. That is no time for any changes to take place. So I hope there's another alumni night at least a year from now, and that would be a lot of fun. But I'd have to make a new Columbia bustier.
Yeah, right. That'd be a really cool experience, though. Like, you've already done Rocky Horror on both sides of coming out and like embracing your transness, because you did. I guess your original run would be all before coming out. But you did do the anniversary one after coming, like a little while after coming out.
The alumni night was
that one, the alumni.
That was just like last year. And so I'd already been out like 5 years. Which was really interesting, because right now I could play Brad without a wig, but back then I had colorful hair, so I had to buy a little short wig. And I still have the wig, and my cats like to try to steal it and carry it around because they think it's some sort of small animal. So I have to hide it.
I was hoping your cats were like a little Gene from Bob's Burgers.
That would be amazing. But yeah, I mean, playing in gender is really fun. But when you have to like perform as a gender in your real life, it gets really complicated. And
it's more fun when you do it on purpose.
So it's really weird that my biggest gender exploration of my life to that point was happening when in real life I was doing the most masking I'd ever done, and the most masking I have ever done. It was a ride. It was a time. I was alive. I am still alive.
Mm-hmm.
I am much healthier now than I was then, even though I don't look healthier. But I'll send you the picture that I just showed you before we started recording again. Like, I was very thin. I do not look healthy. I look miserable and sick. At least when I look at it, that's what I see.
Yeah. Thin definitely doesn't equal healthy.
It doesn't. You can be thin and healthy. You can be fat and healthy. I medically am not the healthiest, but I feel better and stronger now than I did then. Just a lot more tired.
I have so many people now telling me that I need to gain weight. Just like all of my doctors and every trans person I know.
If you feel good, I don't think they need to be focused on a number on a scale. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
But
I don't eat enough.
That's fair. I also don't eat enough. But I'm working on it. On Saturday, someday, one day over the weekend, I ate a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. And that hasn't happened in years. And I was like, I got the tea hunger. And then it went away.
I got the hunger.
That was really exciting.
Hmm.
Human bodies are weird and they're traps.
Depending on where this goes, we don't have to air this part, but I did want to ask you, because I've been trying to decode this for myself, but what's your problem with eating? Like, why are you not hungry? That's a really aggressive way of putting it, but it's like...
Okay, I don't care if we air this.
Okay.
So it started...
I want to learn for myself. That's why I want to ask you.
It's trauma.
Yeah, because when we have these conversations, I feel like...
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't care if you air it.
Okay.
It's not Rocky Horror related, but
yeah,
when I was the indentured servant phase of my life, towards the end, I was told that I wasn't allowed to use any of the utilities in the house. So I had to like pee in a cup and pour it out the window. I had to go to McDonald's to poop, and I wasn't allowed to use the kitchen. So I just got used to not eating. And then when I got access to food again, back then is when I started throwing up a lot too. And it was just like trauma and nerves. But psychologically, I think more than physically, it's if I eat when I'm not hungry, I throw up, and I don't mean to, but it just happens. And so it's turned into, it's not formally diagnosed, but the best way I can describe it is ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, where I am avoiding food because if I don't feel hungry, I'm scared I'm going to throw up. And I don't like throwing up. And I don't know how much my teeth can take because it wears down your teeth. But sometimes I don't even know if I'm hungry until I start eating, or I don't know if I'm hungry until I feel like I'm going to throw up because I'm so hungry that I feel sick, which happened on my birthday. I was like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I don't know what this is about. Like, I haven't eaten anything. And then Chris was like, yeah, you've eaten nothing. So why don't we go eat? And then I felt so much better after I ate. But it's all trauma.
Yeah.
It's probably maybe not all of it, but it plays a role for you. Part of it for me also is I was off thyroid hormones for so long, and that reduces your appetite. Also, whether I want to admit it or not, I'm sorry, work mom, if you hear this, I am addicted to nicotine, and that's an appetite suppressant. But it's trauma.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I necessarily have it pinned down to a specific thing, but I will say the time of my life that I remember like losing my sense of hunger was when I was like at that church that I was working for. There was a really intense emphasis on fasting, and like it was a really bad situation for a lot of the women there with eating disorder pasts. A lot of people just like used it to like mask their eating disorders and everything. That's a separate topic, but I think I just like maybe build up a connection between like spirituality or like being a good person and not eating. Different like way of arriving at the thing that a lot of young women arrive at. But I don't know. I don't know that I have a disorder or anything, but I just like ever since that I don't get hungry anymore.
Mhm.
And like I need people to tell me to eat because I um I could just go until like almost the end of the day without eating, and then all of a sudden I'm like extremely hungry,
Mhm. Me too.
and I'm just like, why am I so hungry? Oh yeah, I haven't eaten anything today. But like my something I've been talking to my doctors about for a while, and they're very much on me. But then also like with being on HRT, if you're trans femme, like almost all of the effects that you get from it are based on fat redistribution. And
You
if you're
gotta
not,
eat.
yeah, if you're not like getting more fat in your body, then like, you know, so I need to do that to like affirm my own gender too. But
But I
it's
mean,
hard.
ADHD doesn't help.
It doesn't, no.
But if you're in a position, whether you're fasting for religious purposes or food scarcity purposes or whatever, if your stomach is trained to wait to eat, it kind of forgets how to be hungry.
Maybe that's what it
I
is.
think that's a lot of it. And like my appetite has gotten so much smaller just because I go so long between eating. Um, and I feel bad because sometimes I'll have gone so long in a day without eating. I'm usually like, I know I'm cooking skills in my house. Chris does an amazing job with the skills he has, but like both of us lean a lot on the frozen foods. But sometimes I'll go so long without eating that I can't even stand up long enough to cook because I'm so weak.
Hmm.
So then he has to figure out what's in the freezer that day. Luckily, we have a lasagna I prepped in the freezer for an emergency. So
Emergency lasagna. Everybody needs an emergency lasagna.
it's a home cooked frozen food, which is really
Yeah.
nice to have.
Yeah.
I had two. We already ate one, but it was very good.
Yeah. I love having that.
Hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, Rocky Horror and eating disorders for me go hand in hand. Just because, like, when I was doing that, that was what I was dealing with,
Hmm.
and it was all very gendered. And now mine isn't even gendered. It's just I don't like throwing up.
It's become like a groove that you formed, like a path that you formed through. I feel like I'm turning into my therapist now,
Mhm.
but it's just become a path that you've worn so much that it's easy to walk there, and you have to like go way out of your way to remember, like, I have to be eating now. This is eating time. Because the one thing you said like made a lot of sense, was which is just that like I trained my body to be able to not be hungry, because like when I would go several days without eating, I would have to find a way to like deal with that physically and emotionally
Mhm.
and just like I guess learn to turn off some of the hunger impulses, and I think they just like didn't come back after that.
And I think if we were to, like, force ourselves to follow an eating schedule, it would probably come back eventually, but it would take a while. Just because, like, it's been
Hmm.
years for you since you worked for that
It's been a
church,
really long time.
and it's been years for me since I was in that horrible living situation.
Yeah.
That's a long time for your body to be stuck in a pattern, and I do worry that, like, I've ruined my digestion. Um, I've tried to get testing for gastroparesis, but just the basic blood tests showed I wasn't malnourished, so they were like, "We can't justify further testing." But I am worried that I have slowed my digestion by so much that I might never be able to eat like a normal person again. I'm hoping tea is gonna help.
Hmm.
Because if I'm gonna work out and get big and strong and redistribute my fat and build muscle, I need to have fuel, especially if I'm lifting heavy. Because I would much rather lift heavy than do cardio, especially because when I had the exercise eating disorder, cardio was like all I was doing. Um, so first of all, my knees can't handle running anymore. Um, but second of all, I know I have a tendency to start obsessing about the scale, and so I don't weigh myself unless I'm
Yeah.
at the doctor. I'd like to avoid repeating the same behaviors that I was in back then,
Hmm.
because I just have that type of brain chemistry where if I start seeing changes, I'm going to start hyperfixating on the changes and I'll
Hmm.
start trying to cheat code my way into making the changes happen faster.
Hmm. It becomes like a numbers game too.
Yep. Gamify your body.
Yeah. I just need to do my like neurodivergent life hack of making the thing that I need to do into a special interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I just long enough to start getting hungry again.
I think specialty grocery stores help. Like if there's a specific type of cuisine that you really like, going to find the different ingredients that you need to make it at home. Like I've never eaten more in recent years than when Matt finally took me to an Asian grocery store and I got like the black vinegar and like all sorts of like good pantry staples that are common in Asian cuisine because Asian food is the love of my stomach. Not the
mhm.
love of my life, but the love of my taste buds and my stomach. Um, so good.
Yeah.
My taste buds were not destined for North America.
Yeah, I
Um,
love Mediterranean food,
mm.
North African food.
Oh, I love that.
Just kind of like the spice belt.
Yeah. I love a tagine.
Mhm.
Tagines are so good.
Yeah.
I like anything that isn't flavorless, bland white people food pretty much. But I
Mhm.
don't want it to be like so spicy my tongue is burning. But I've heard that tea can make you be more comfortable with spicy foods. So I'm hoping that I can join the Spice Boys.
Yeah, Spice Boys.
Yeah.
And maybe if I get into making hot sauce again, then you can partake in that.
I like hot sauce.
Yeah.
I just don't like a lot of hot sauce.
Mhm.
But like I did a field study in Belize back when I was a person with energy and I was vegetarian at the time. So most of my meals were rice, beans, and hot sauce. Um, and there's some really good ones, really garlicky ones. My favorite brand of hot sauce is Marie Sharps, which
Hmm.
is made in Belize. Because, I was in Belize. I had to be cool.
Yeah.
It's the one place I've been that wasn't here or barely into Canada.
Mhm.
So I love
Yeah,
it.
for anybody who doesn't know, my primary hobby is just picking up hobbies and running them into the ground and then finding a new hobby.
Hmm.
Um, so one of my hobbies that I did for a couple of years is I was really into gardening and I grew a lot of pepper plants, mostly ones that are either rare or just things that you can't buy at the grocery store. And then I would make hot sauces and stuff out of them. I would ferment a lot of the peppers. I did a lot of fun stuff with it, but some of them were just ones that you can't get anywhere unless you grow them for yourself. And so I almost feel like I need to get back into gardening because there's one spice powder that I made myself from peppers that I grew that you cannot buy. And I'm like, once I run out of this, I'm not going to have it. And it's going to be a desperate situation.
You
Maybe I need to
remember?
garden again.
Do you remember how you made it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because for me, I'd be like, "What? That one spice is gone, but I
Hmm.
can't remember what pepper I use. I can't remember the process. What am I gonna do?"
Yeah. No, it's just a mix of two different peppers that I dried and ground up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want
It's
to
really good.
garden, but my backyard is so full of weeds. Like, there's some weeds that are as tall as me
Mhm.
now, and I did some weed killer spray on just the paved parts because there's patio 1 foot by 1 foot bricks, and then there's just weeds growing out of the cracks. But I'm scared to do the planter beds because I don't want to put weed killer in there and then have plants not be able to
Don't put
grow.
weed killer in there.
Yeah. But
The best thing you can do, this is gonna be a gardening podcast now.
yeah.
The best thing you can do, get a bunch of scrap cardboard and completely cover your beds with it and leave it there all over the winter.
Good idea.
So that way nothing gets sunlight, so everything will die there. But then also the cardboard breaks down and it's like a fertilizer almost. And so when you come back to planting season again, you can just kind of till that in. And it's good for your soil.
And we're not done unpacking yet, so we have plenty of cardboard,
Yeah.
especially in my craft room.
Hmm.
But we still have a bunch of boxes that we actually just broke down this weekend that we were going to put out tonight for recycling, but I could just pull
Save
some
them.
out and put them on the.
Thank God we had this conversation.
Seriously, it was going to be tonight.
Yeah.
It was going to be at least a dozen moving boxes that are all broken down and put into one moving box.
Hmm. Yeah, save that. Go kill everything in your garden box.
Chris's coworker, who's the closest thing he has to a dad in his life besides my work dad, said to do boiling water because it'll kill what's alive, but then the water won't hurt anything once it cools. But I'm scared it might change the soil's nutrients.
I would be careful with that. With anything that you're designing to kill things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can if you're fine just buying compost, next year, like that's cool too. You just do that. But yeah.
Yeah, I want a vegetable garden. I want
That's really fun, but
growing your own food makes you want to cook more.
It's really fun. But like the yard in the place we live now isn't good for planting unless I put a lot of work into it, which I don't want to do, especially since it's a rental and I don't know how long we'll end up being here.
You could garden at my house.
Yeah.
I just want 10% of the profits, as
Yeah.
in 10% of the yield.
Absolutely.
Just come on over. Give me instructions.
You know what? I probably still have like the seeds for this. I'm not sure, but a really good one if you're trying to encourage yourself to cook more and eat more is it's like a Chinese long bean. And it's like it's a long, it's like one bean can like be a vegetable dish for a side dish for like maybe two people, one
I
or
could
two
grow
people.
it along the fence and put a trellis up.
But it's really cool because like you won't really notice anything growing on it. And then you'll look outside one day and there'll just be like a massive bean out there. And you're just like, oh, I'm having bean tonight. And you just like take the giant bean, you cut it up into pieces like the size of a green bean or whatever. And
Stir-fry.
like, yeah, exactly. It's really nice.
It sounds so good. I love a stir fry.
Yeah.
I could eat stir fries every day for 3 meals a day for the rest of my life and be happy.
Yeah. It's veggies.
I love veggies. I don't eat enough veggies because frozen like meals, like if I'll get like a lot of like frozen General Tso's or orange chicken or beef and broccoli, and like beef and broccoli has broccoli, but it's like 4 pieces of broccoli, and I need more.
Yeah.
I love broccoli. It's not good for you if you have thyroid problems, but that's what prescription medicines are for. Just take more thyroid hormones. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, goodness.
Wow. That was some good Rocky Horror talk.
And beans.
If there's one thing that this podcast is all about, it's about wandering into a completely unrelated topic that is still also good and valid that we might not have ended up at.
Listen,
case in point.
It was a train of thought, choo-choo. It was Rocky Horror to eating disorders to food to gardening. And it makes perfect sense.
It makes absolute sense. And I stand by it. I'm fine with it. Our true fans.
They're our friends. Come on.
our friends and family who we were not forcing to listen to this.
Yeah.
Will have stuck by at this point anyway. So thank you, everybody. It's been really nice doing the time warp with you again, Ben.
Let's do the time warp again.
Let's do the time warp again.
Everyone listening, please go make yourself a lovely meal and nourish your bodies.
Take care of yourself. It's not easy.
It's not.
You should love yourself. You're all wonderful.
And beautiful. Or handsome, depending on if you don't like the word beautiful.
Yeah. You're all gorgeous hotties.
Yeah, cutie pie, patootie pie.
All right. Well, I have been your Brat Queen Robin. I
have been your Brat King Ben.
We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Is this video mode?
I think that's video mode.
Yes, I see a little thing clicking. Yeah. I mean, counting or whatever.
A little thing.
I see a little thing.
I see a little thing. Her name's Nami, and she's on the floor, and no one can see her.
Can't see. Yeah. Why are you down there? Why are you? Oh my
She's
God.
destroying your notebook.
You were not kidding. You psycho! Look what she did. She just tore the. Okay, we need to hide this from you.
First, it was the hair ties. Now it's metal.
Yeah, this one had to get emergency surgery because her stomach was full of hair ties and rubber bands. It's so sad.
She loves office supplies and accessories. She's a gal's gal.
Yeah. Oh, the one, first of all, like every vet tech and vet working at the clinic like knew all about her. They were like obsessed. But the one lady who worked there was like, she's just having girl dinner. Just dying, yeah.
Nom nom Nami. Hi, Brats.
Hi, Brats.
Yeah.
That name ended up really applying for her, though, because, like, we always called her like nom noms as like a catchphrase, but Luffy is the one who eats like crazy. And I was like, it's weird that we're calling the one who doesn't eat that. And then we found out she doesn't eat because her stomach was full of like foreign objects.
She does eat. She just has pica.
Yeah. She's got something.
Yeah.
She's got a critical case of orange cat.
She's so cute. I'm sad she's not in frame. You better jump up on the thing soon, little girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's beautiful.
She's gorgeous. But I think we need to get pet insurance for these ones because they do the dumbest stuff all the time. They're every orange cat stereotype. 100%. Like Luffy straight up, like in our house, we have like a balcony on the main floor that goes down like to like the landing basically. It's like a really long fall. And we were always like nervous about the cats because they love that ledge because it's so high up. We're always nervous about them falling off. And then one day Luffy was just running across the living room, just like boop, jumped right over it, like didn't even hit the ledge, just jumped straight over and onto the ground floor.
Which is at least
And we
what,
just,
like 40 feet?
It's really high. And we just heard like a meow, and then he like ran back upstairs, like fine. Like he was a kid, and I was like, wait till you're like 15 pounds.
He's working on it.
Yeah. I mean, they're cats, they're fine, but
Yeah.
still, it was scary.
I'd be so scared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we don't have that kind of ledge in mine.
Yeah. They have both fallen over it at this point, though. We think the one time Luffy pushed Nami off, but there's no evidence.
Typical brother behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ugh.